Thank you so much for having me. This is a great opportunity to be able to share my experience about transformational change programs. And the one that I've picked for today is related to a program implemented by a multinational IT company. Their strategic change initiative was directed at their EMEA footprint and their sales function. And the outcomes that they were looking for were to move all of the geographically dispersed sales offices in each of the countries to a single physical location. So just imagine the complexity around that. In that process, by co-locating, they also had because they completed it, but the plan, the strategic intent, was to, at that time, up the training, improve their processes and approaches so that they're best in class. So not only are they onboarding and moving existing staff, but they're also changing them, changing the way they do business. And at the same time that operational savings are realized through the consolidation, the sales targets are being increased. And I'll note again that throughout this program, the key project workstream leaders still had to meet their sales quotas. So they were doing operational and transformational work at the same time. So how did I get involved? Going back to Dr. Sadi's words, what did they need? They needed a flexible PMO framework. And something that, as I put it, could be parachuted into the program, the initiative, which had already started, and be tailored to how the organization works, to their different cultures, organizational cultures and practices. Otherwise, it's a non-starter. The program, the overall project manager, program manager responsible for this strategic initiative did not have a budget for internal program management office resources. So what he did is he sort of carved out a portion of the project on his own and sought out contract resources. So myself and another expert practitioner, we proposed up to 1 year effort, and with the intent of phasing off earlier if we could go ahead and be successful in getting the teams to adopt the practices. In other words, to transfer the knowledge to this organization. So that was the goal. In terms of the how, the first thing that won't surprise you that we discovered was that it was chaotic. Given the outcomes that they were looking for, there were large project work streams around the logistics of the relocation in the office complex itself. How many people are we looking at? What's the office space? What are your requirements? HR work stream. Oh my gosh, the employment practices, as you know, in different European countries are very complex and very difficult. So as they work through who will be transitioned over, who will be let go, all sorts of risks and complexities around that. Then obviously the connection there is, well, how many people are we going to have to hire? And of course, in a whole bunch of different languages. So the recruiting project work stream is also going in parallel. And as I mentioned, training and implementation and acceptance of these new best-in-class processes that would be used also were being defined and developed at the same time. So in order to, what do PMOs do best? What do project leaders do best? We create calm and order, I think, around chaos. And as I said, the monitoring was something that was not in place. And one of the challenges is that a lot of the team members were more focused on their operational day-to-day responsibilities versus their transformational responsibilities. So we created a drumbeat and a control mechanism where they knew that they would need to, there would be a check-in with them against the project plan and what their commitments were from the last time we spoke to them. And of course, we were collecting programmatic data as we went along to just know what the status of this entire initiative was. I'm going to switch over to the other part of the how on the next slide in detail, which is about the communications side of it. We developed a dashboard that was very tailorable, very simple to use, but very effective in terms of rolling up what the key messages needed to be for the executive leadership, all the way up to this organization's EMEA CEO. And the other thing that you'll notice as I move to the next slide is that benefits and the thought about what value is being realized as we were going along was incorporated into this dashboard. So let me, whoops, sorry, my apologies. I was trying to close the window here. Okay, so why was this effective? There's a lot of activity ongoing, right? That creates a lot of data and a lot of information. The challenge was to roll it up, focus on exactly what the key connections were or what the key risks and challenges were, and then associate them with any impact on benefits. And more often than not, the risks or some of the issues that we were faced with and needed to communicate would impact benefits realization directly. So that's why that was often a red on the sheet. The other thing that happened is, as you can imagine, as the head of this entire program, our customer was constantly in the process of meeting and connecting and communicating what's happening. So what was great about this template or this dashboard is that in the meetings where all of the work stream heads, project work stream heads had to come together, this was the agenda. So there was no surprises. They knew where we were before. Here's where we are now based on the detailed data rolling up. And let's focus the conversation on, you know, why is something orange? Yeah, it's within our tolerance, but, you know, where are we going? Same thing with issues. Is there anything also that we need to communicate and escalate? And so all that would be the focus of the conversation. And as this dashboard was updated, that would be captured. So focusing on the sort of the why. So we talked about what the purpose of the strategic initiative was. We talked about what was needed to put order and a framework around what was happening to be able to manage and execute this. Then there's the why. And what was very successful about our effort is that we spent a lot of time and energy on being able to articulate what the benefits were as a statement, for example. And in fact, if you read the benefit statement, it sounds and reads exactly like the justification for the funding. But again, our client didn't have it. So as we were sort of piecing off bits and parts of the project budget to be able to support this work, it was extremely important that he be able to continually justify why the funds were going towards this, temporary initiative. So in order to be able to do that, we looked at some concrete factors to be able to describe it. And it won't surprise you that the senior program manager's time was much more effectively used because he had the information that was needed to be able to understand where he should focus his attention to keep the project going, to keep the different connections intact and moving forward, as well, most importantly, communicating up to his basically to the executive team, and continue to keep this on track. Our two-person team that was contracted in, actually, we finished our work within 6 months. So it was effective to the point that we were able to work ourselves out of a job. Sounds counterintuitive when you're a contractor, but at the end of the day, it's all about value. And we were very proud of the fact that the work that we did was able to be internalized by this organization. And as a result, they achieved savings there. To close on another important way to demonstrate the why and the value is to get testimonials. So a very senior person within the organization, a very well-respected person, agreed to write a testimonial, which we used as we went along. That's just a taste for what we did on this project, just to give you a sense for how value was incorporated, how something as simple as a dashboard can be applied in certain situations. I just want to know, are there any questions? I'm planning on fleshing a lot of this information out into a half-day program, and I'll be writing more about it as time goes on.
Any questions up to now? Okay, we can go on to the final session, Deena.
Sounds good. Okay. Oh, just need to admit somebody into the waiting room. All right.
Okay, we are dealing with that.
Yep. All right. Well, again, this is part 2 of this year's summit. How do PMOs create value has been the topic. I think we could meet for days and days in terms of all the elements about it. I've learned a lot during this session about how different organizations have applied technology, different approaches to not only close the gap between strategy and execution, in other words, ensure that the right projects are being done at the right time and for common sense investments, right? Just justified in terms of why that money's spent. And also different ways of transferring knowledge and capturing it. Again, there's a lot of flexibility for how that can be done. And over time, I've been asked the question as I've been at different events around the world, and it's like, oh, are PMOs, is this an old thing? Is this going to be replaced by the next buzzword or the next concept? And the answer is no. PMOs are here to stay. They're very effective. Our challenge has been, how do we articulate that? How do we demonstrate it? Because at the end of the day, we are an overhead function. We're not part of the business revenue stream. And that's my comments. Mustafa, what would you like to?
Okay. These are all what throughout the summit we focused on, starting with Sadi and Richard. They all focused on the value, and today we also had great experiences on how PMOs can create value. So these are only some top bullets that we can create value from PMO's perspective. So today we have lots of takeaways. If you'd like, we can just get to that point and starting an interactive conversation with our attendees. So could you please, in English or in Turkish, you may just connect with your voice, or you may write on it on the chat box, can we close it together with from your getting from your feedback from this summit? What were the key takeaways that you are taking with you to your organizations, to your PMOs? So please share us some words, some sentences, however you want. Just, it's free. You are free to share anything. Let's list it here, and we will be delivering it as a key takeaways from this summit. While they are writing, Deena, what was yours, the key takeaway from this summit?
This will not surprise you. Communicate value.
Yes.
Because this ties back to the iceberg analogy. The value's there. You're creating value every day that you do your job as a PMO, but it remains hidden, unfortunately. So the challenge is to mine it and package it up and find ways to communicate it in a way that resonates with your organization.
Yes, and there's a comment from Osman Akman, Dr. Osman Akman. What is the biggest contribution can PMO give an organization, not only software company? I think this is Osman Bey. Is this a question or your comment? Can you just share it with us in English or in Turkish? Question, okay. What is the biggest contribution can PMO give an organization, not only software company?
For me, in my experience, the sector or the sector that the organization is operating in is not relevant. It applies all across the board. The challenge is how to adapt and to tailor the tools, the tool set, the capability, the value that a PMO can bring. But that's again very high level comment, but there's so much that we can do, and it's irrelevant for the sector.
Yes, definitely. And Saadet Tekel has a comment also. It's good to hear that PMOs will continue creating value and will not be outdated anytime soon. So key takeaways is that PMOs maybe should be, PMOs will be there in the future, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And what else? Please just share your takeaways, the results that you get from the summit so that we can write it down. As I mentioned, you may also join with your voice. Do not hesitate, please.
I'm just jumping in.
Must be adaptable to their organization's culture.
Because again, we can't transform. We can't deliver or execute on a strategic initiative without transformation within the organization as well. And that's what's so challenging. And yeah, it's like there's layers, right, on top of it. We got to deliver, we've got our triple constraint, but at the same time, we also have to show the value, keep communicating it, and start over, keep going. Adapt, adapt, adapt.
Yes, definitely. And one of the key takeaways from me is that if you are a company trying to establish a project management office, the most critical thing is you should first focus on the assessment part. So assess the environment, assess the stakeholders, assess the needs. So that is one of the key takeaways that we should do for establishing a PMO.
It's my native language and I'm having trouble spelling.
That's great.
There we go.
And Mine Arlıcin has some why, what, who, value stream, see challenge, identify action, first understand, then cure. Let us write some of them.
Okay.
Value stream. Let's say write value stream is one of the key takeaways. So
what about the value stream? It must be there. Identify it.
Identify and focus on value stream. She says also identify action. And she adds transformation should start with leaders. I think from the top.
It's not just support, it's sponsorship, right?
Yeah. And Eren says, don't start your agile transformation without PMO.
Amen. Don't start any transformation, but agile is very, very important part of that.
And finally, Saadet Tekel says that PMO is a critical agent of corporate strategy and benefit realization management.
Absolutely. Oops.
And let's write a final one. It comes from Çağkan Turgut. Strategy execution is crucial for digital transformation. And Sertu has two takeaways. Talking about value streams and here real-life best practices about portfolio management are my key takeaways, he says.
Catching up. This is from Çağkan, right?
Yeah, that's right. And from Sertu, talking about value streams and here real-life best practices about portfolio management are my key takeaways.
Yeah.
So we have lots of takeaways, Deena.
You do?
So what is next? What should we do?
All right. This ties back to the point about the need for sponsorship, the need to engage the organization in the change process. And I feel very motivated and energized to leave this summit and work that much harder and more effectively in terms of thinking about what I can do within my organization to create even further value within the framework of my responsibilities, which in this case is through the PMO. I think go on. Yeah.
So it is now we have key takeaways. It is action time, but it is not enough to take action only by ourselves. We have to make other people take action. So we should start with call to action within our organization in order to make these takeaways turn into a real life experience. And as you mentioned here, tailoring approach for implementing these takeaways. And this community is always here when you need. You can get help from this community. You are not alone. Thank you very much for being in this environment. Deena, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks for having me.
Especially I am looking forward to your new course regarding with that change management, because we all talked today and yesterday actually was about change. In order to make our projects to focus on value, we have to change the mindset in our organizations, because we are still in the mindset of triple constraint. In order to make right projects, I mean, in order to manage our projects in a right way, we have to change that mindset. So that course will be very helpful, I believe. I'll be looking forward to having that course. We can close. If you have any comments, please share us. May I just ask you to unmute before closing, because we will have a closing session. I need your voice in order to have that session. We can stop sharing, Deena, if you'd like.